It's November 18th. Typically this would be preview day or preview night, but it's not, because this is a whole different process. So this is our final check-in, and I just thought it would be fun to go around, see what people, before we've actually seen the final product, see what people's thoughts were and reflections on the process and how things went, and anything we might have learned. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump in first. Nathan?
Well, I had a bigger start where we got everything going, but once we got everything to the students, I kind of backed out and just kind of watched to see what was going on. Sometimes my role's big, sometimes my role's a little smaller, and just sit around and wait for if they need an opinion.
Well, and the timetable was very strange, I think, for especially those of us in production, because we tend to start off slow and get busier. And this one was sort of like, we got busy and then it got really slow. So that's been interesting. Kelly Jo, you've had a dual role as both sort of parent and dramaturg. So that's been interesting, I think, to watch that process, those processes unfold, because they're quite different, I think.
Yes. And keeping the hats separate was really important. The thing that I noticed overall in the project, just from the perspective of what I was doing, like starting the writing with the participants and being able to come back and forth with them to refine it, is how well this worked for that. I think there are huge challenges around the kids not being able to have bodies in rooms and interact to their liveness. You know, like have a response to the liveness, have a response to the actual objects that that Mason and Kathy give them and stuff like that. That's all. And then walking stone cold in with a bunch of artifacts and going, all right, let's make art. You know, that's hugely challenging. But just in terms of the writing process, it's really satisfying. You put everybody in the room, you give them the prompts and the procedures and stuff like that. And then you can have all this one-on-one time, which I love. I love the writing conferences that we have on Zoom, where you can just pull up the writing and mess around with it and stuff like that. It's deeply satisfying. And I was talking to another organization last night about the ways that we're just having to invent ways to work over distance. Like there was a thing happening in theater where people were trying to start to use digital technology to work over distance, the way Catherine's working with Grease. But now we're just working over distance, like over blocks of city streets. But it still is perfectly feasible to do interesting work in this venue. I think there are bigger challenges in different stages of the work, but for that, it was really satisfying.
And I think that's the important thing. I mean, I think it's important in this time to sort of take the small wins that we have, right, and run with them, because I think that, you know, that might not go away. I mean, now that we've used Zoom in this way, in this manner, it might be a practice that's here to stay for some things, you know, for some. Anything about being a parent of a
Okay.
student who is going through the process?
The sort of, oh, now we don't have anything to do thing that y'all are feeling. The support people for the students were not feeling that. They were feeling the opposite of that. One's bedroom was turned into a shooting studio. One's bathroom was covered in black and white makeup. It's still coming out of the washing machine. But more, my kid has all the kids have their own particular issues. My kid's issue is anxiety, and that thing of being thrown into the deep end with very little structure. You know, like, poor kid didn't know what day it was most days of the week. And I think that's not an uncommon feeling in this room as well. And so there was this huge sense of there being very little holding him up, that he had to just go. And I told Thomas for an article that he's running that the thing that impressed me enormously, like with Tiana and everybody, is just the way that they just jumped. They just jumped into the big wide open and tried to make a thing. And that's a really hard lesson to learn, but incredibly valuable for students in our form, that it is okay to just jump.
Yes, sometimes the jumping is the thing.
Skill that you're acquiring through the process, and that even if you go splat, you can still reassemble the pieces and try again. And I think a lot of university students have that thing where if they feel if they screw up, the world has ended. And this has been a huge opportunity for everybody to just go, whoa, I just completely blew everything. Mach 2, you know, just next try. And so, yeah, that the period where the kids were just jumping, at least in our house, was a pretty fraught one.
Mhm.
But it was an enormous learning experience.
And I think you're right. I don't think your house was the only house experiencing that as well. So I want to pop down to Gerald, because we actually haven't had Gerald on in the room all semester. But Gerald's experimental film class took the same portraits and then responded to them in different ways, in filmic ways. Gerald, do you want to talk a little bit about that process and how that went for you and your class?
Right. Well, I think the big thing is actually still to come. So far, my students have been in their comfort zone. Give them a theme, give them a project, give them some parameters. Say, go off, make something like this. They go off and do that. So this is something that they're accustomed to doing. They're mostly third and fourth year students. So everything is sort of business as usual for them. What's really to come is the screening, where they're part of something that's bigger than them, that's
Right.
bigger than just their projects. And so to me, this is the big learning experience for my students is actually tomorrow night. And I'm not getting a lot of discussion from them about excitement about participating in that thing. I've really got to build. I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning again, and we're going to make sure this is I reinforce this. But yeah, there is a realization that comes, and that I've experienced many times. And it builds over a career, that when it's not just you making something, it's how you present it, it's how the audience responds to it, it's the context that it's in. It is taking your own work seriously because it reflects not only on yourself but on the people around you. And this is things that I think the theater students, it's like it's year one for theater students, but it's like it's advanced studies for film students. Is that interconnectivity between you and the people around you. Right. So that's the big deal for me, and I may have to kind of follow up on this, because yeah, I don't know what they've learned out of this. Some of them excelled at the project, some of them maybe you didn't take it quite as seriously, but I think they all delivered something appropriate for it, and they all spoke actually really eloquently about it in class. So I'm hoping that they're all there because they gave a succinct, creative, intelligent response to why they made their projects the way they did. And I've got cleaning near me. Yeah, that's my.
Great. No, that's excellent. And yeah, so we may have to do. I mean, I think there's bound to be some sort of follow up anyway. So and the project's continuing with our connection in Greece. So I think we'll probably be able to chat again at some point. Once the project has been unveiled, as we say tomorrow. Kathy, what about you?
Yeah, what I've found is once we handed over the costumes and the props to the students, and I did meet with them all except for one person. Well, no, I did. I met with them all individually, but what I have learned from that is I would have liked to have actually met with them with their backdrops and all their pieces right there, because some of them you could have said, well, move this here, put that there, but it's the learning curve for us and them, right? Because I just thought, oh geez, if I could have just got, well, I haven't seen the finished one of Hussein's, because all we've got is headshots, right? So I don't know where that's gone now, whether we do see more. And you know, when you tell somebody 3-4 times how to arrange things on them, and you see they haven't done even one iota of that, that really does tick me off. But you know, so if I could have, I guess
That's why we have dressers in the theater.
I know. But you see, when you do what you do, and then when you give them strict guidelines, and then it's just like, why didn't you do that? You know, but hey, that's what we do, you know. But other than that, I can't wait to see the whole package. Just how we saw with some of the students in Greece, some of them were parallel, same thoughts as our students with as to why they chose those portraits and everything. So I find that really interesting. So I can't wait to see all of it come together now. But yeah, I guess I think it's great we're doing this project, but I wanted one more meeting with them.
But you know, we have that when we go on, we know when we're live doing a theater production and you know, someone wears their costume wrong and it's irksome. So Jana, I'm going to jump to you just because you're both sort of part of the creative production team, and you're also in the project itself. How has this been for you, besides Little Crazy?
Yeah, crazy. Really good though. I mean, like, if I talk about the student being in the project, I've learned so many things that I can't even talk about in a succinct way, like from writing to filming, everything, just a whole like cloud of information in my head that I'm still trying to sort out and compartmentalize to what I need to hold on to and what are good lessons to hold on to. But I mean, it was a really interesting project. I think, like kind of Joe said, that like the jumping off point was the scariest, when I had to start filming myself and being the person that was trying to look at the continuity, but also laying on a table and try to be like, okay, sister, is the camera settings right? And she's like, I don't know. That's kind of was the scary part. But all in all, like, from what I've seen, I'm really proud of the work every student has done. And I think I've known kind of more of their struggles. Like, we've talked outside of the class, obviously. So I know some of the more, what was going through people's heads. And I think people are really proud of what they've made. And then on the publicity side, I mean, I've also learned a lot and done a lot of skills that I haven't done either in a long time or in a professional way.
Well, and I mean, and it's got to be, it's got to be a challenge, right? Because I mean, we're trying to market a thing that sort of defies a quick explanation at a time when, in ways that are different, right? Because it's not like come to the theater. Night. This thing will go live at this time, and it's this interested, mediated conversation, and you should attend.
Yeah, definitely different than, like, I've advertised like improv shows, done a lot of work like with that at the university with the improv group, but that's very different than being like, hey, can you guys like please tune in to YouTube this night? Like, please, like, just, I won't be able to see that you're there, but can you like give me the knowledge that you will be there? So yeah, it's different.
but yeah, and I think you're, I mean, you know, and I think the fact that the toolkit is full or it's full of new things is actually is great. But yeah, it'll take a while to think about, unpack, and
Yeah.
what's the takeaway, right?
Yeah.
Rachel, I'm just going to dump to you because I don't know if you've been to any of the other check-ins as well, but anyway, as sort of the technical coordinator and lighting designer or lighting coordinator, lighting facilitator, what was your takeaway from all of this craziness?
Definitely, I'd say it was like a learning experience. I've never, like quote unquote stage managed something over Zoom before. But yeah, just kind of generally figuring things out for the first time and like making sure everyone was like connected as much as possible and things like that. I think especially on the lighting side, I'm a very like picky, pedantic person, detail oriented. So learning to like give people the tools they need and then just let them do it was very much my biggest takeaway from that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was for all of us in production. That was the takeaway, right? It was like, okay, we can do this much, and then we have to let go, and we're kind of not used to doing that. So it probably was good for all of us from that way. And yeah, I can't imagine. You were also, I mean, I think you were also sort of the technical consultant for a lot of the students. You and Thomas sort of, were shotgun TDs, right? With
With the troubleshooting here and there.
So I've saved Catherine and Thomas for the end because they're still working. So I don't know which one of you wants to go. Maybe Thomas, do you want to jump in first? And I know you've been sort of working around the clock for the last 3 weeks. We thought it was going to be when you and I talked about 3 weeks ago. You had such a great plan. I'm not sure if you were able to stick to it or not.
Yeah, I mean, not everything went exactly according to plan. A few things. It was a lot of information to process, and sometimes I think in this whole like creative endeavors, one of the things I do to myself is not let myself take time to process stuff and realize that that's part of the work. Like I do take the time to process it, but I beat myself up over doing it. Yeah, so it was a lot to process. And basically, one thing I also going into the process that I kind of knew, but I didn't realize how much it would feel like this, is that on one level, it's a project that all fits together, but on another level, it's 13 separate short films. So just moving your, like getting into the headspace of each one as you switch between them took a lot of energy, and but was also interesting. And kind of echoing what everybody has said, even though I'm not a student in this project, I've learned a ton from doing this. And yeah, at this point, it's really exciting, but also a little scary. Basically like 24 hours left to make it whatever it's going to be. But we're at the point now where it's all put together. And there's a few little tweaks to do, but basically it's just refining stuff, fixing sound, working on, if I have a chance, working on color, things like that. So yeah, it's really exciting, and it's nice to see how it's coming together, and we'll see what the next 24 hours brings.
Well, and I think too, it's partly you're kind of at that jumping off point where the students were about 5 weeks ago when they were about to start filming, right? It's like, but you have to just let go and see what happens, right? But it's also, that's very similar to, I think, how most of us feel on those preview nights or preview afternoons, where it's like, we could have done this, we should have done that, blah, blah, blah. There's all these things we could have done had we had more time, and there never is, right? So I think we're exactly where we need to be, given that the project was different, but it's the same. So, Catherine, our attention's turned to you.
Well, I don't know what else I can add. You know, I was just listening to everybody, and it like for me, and I know Wes, I've talked to you about this before on other project, on that other big project we worked on. You know, it was sort of just a conscious decision to say yes. And when you say yes, you don't really know what's going to happen. And I'm just looking at all of you, and I'm thinking of Nathan Copens, and I wish Gerald was still here too, because Nathan, we haven't had an opportunity to really hear from either, and he's provided all the original music for the project. So, you know, you invite all these professionals and artists to do their thing, and it's really interesting, and also a process of letting go, like, and accepting that Kathy's gonna do her job and she's gonna do it beautifully, and Mason is also an exceptional professional and is gonna provide the best that he can for the students, and Kelly Jo is gonna guide them through the writing process with all of her expertise in dramaturgy and playwriting, and you know, you're gonna provide design consultation, and you know, it was a very different experience than directing a show, but by the same token, you're very conscious of just kind of giving over and allowing people to have their own creative response. Instead of it being my creative response or the team's unified creative response, it's people responding and learning how to accept what their creative offers are. And I think that's really valuable. I think it's a really valuable lesson. And I know for Nathan, he's in Saskatoon. You know, Thomas is in Saskatoon. One of our students is in Vancouver. Another one is in Moose Jaw. Rachel's in Moose Jaw. You know, people are kind of all over the place in this, and yet we were able to come together and create something that I think Thomas has done an amazing job. Kelly Jo's done an amazing job. Rachel has done an amazing job. You know, as production manager, really, of something that neither of us knew how to production manage it, right? And the students have been amazing. Like, you know, I can't talk about them too much because I'll get a bit teary because I'm so tired, right? But, well, I probably will anyway, but they've just been fabulous. So I'm really excited to share the whole thing. I can't talk anymore though.
No, that's, well, and
Sorry.
it's, I mean, I think it's interesting when we, with those two big projects that we've worked on, and I think big projects that are upcoming as the program develops, we're kind of rethinking collaboration and what collaboration means and how to collaborate in very different ways in very trying circumstances. And I think that's been, I think that part of that letting go is that, right? And I think we all had moments where we had to let go of something that we typically or might not have in the past let go of. And I think in doing that, I think it was helpful for all of us. And certainly the end product that when I let go, the end product that we ended up with was fantastic and probably way better than I could have ever created by myself. So, I mean, that was, again, one of those moments that we just had to realize that it's a new way of working. And,
well, I'm glad you brought that up, Wes, because the one thing I will say, you know, we're all talking about how to decolonize the practice, right? How to, and none of us who have been brought up in the colonized practice of theater really know what that means. We don't really know how to begin that, right? And it has occurred to me throughout this process, and also to some degree throughout the Born Settee, that's part of what it's about. It's letting people have their creative response to an idea or a theme or something, and accepting that, right, as what it is. And that's what's really, I think, the challenge for those of us who have had very kind of rigorous, strict training in a patriarchal Western tradition of theater, to allow a different kind of exploration and to accept it, I think, is really the challenge, right? Accepting that what other people are doing is beautiful and worthy and amazing, because it is, right? Like, as Tiana said, like, none of these students, like, between them, some had never written before, some had never been on film before. None of them, I think, had ever really filmed, using a camera or their cell phones.
Mhm.
They hadn't done a storyboard. They hadn't done any of this. And they just went, okay, I'm going to do this because this is what we're doing in this class. And, you know, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, I'm very impressed with what has transpired. So, yeah, it's kind of maybe an open door to what decolonizing the practice could be. I don't know, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's, and I think, I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot that you talked about in terms of, yeah, decolonizing, but what does that mean and how do we be? But I think that, again, these are baby steps. There'll be mistakes, we'll fall. You know, my class is tired of hearing me talk about Gordon Tannehill's notion of theater of failure, but the allowing ourselves to either fail or allowing ourselves to fail and learn or allowing ourselves to not need to be perfect, I think is really important. And I think as we move out of whatever a post-COVID world looks like, I think that's going to be one of the things that I think is will be one of the things we take away from this moment, and not just this project, but this year, this moment is those. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not know where we're going. It's okay to, but we have to keep on going somehow. So there's something there, I think.
Yeah, I love the notion of allowing yourself to fail, because I think that that has a different meaning, particularly in this particular process and project, because without that, you're not going to get the great results, right? And it seems like it seems backwards, but I think that's a very good point.
Well, and because it's if we're aiming for a Spielberg moment, we're probably not going to get there. So why would we even want to go there, right? It's like let's we're playing with new tools, we're discovering new things, and we're learning. Like, and that's important. And we'll go, oh, next time I won't do this, or next time I'll do this better, or I loved what I did and it was good.
I actually think this would be a great class to continue. I mean, we're going to have a postmortem on it, but it would be an interesting project to look at in various forms down the line.
Pedagogy papers being conceived right now as we speak. Just think of all the conferences we'll be able to go to talking about this forever.
I think it'd be a very good class to continue, because the theater, the film, and bringing it all together, you get the continuity, the different angles, and to go on from that, and just to see how you learn. I think it'd be a really good class.
I just want to thank you all your work on this project, but also for being willing to stop in and chat every once in a while to for my class, and for just keep giving hopefully my students some insight into this whole process. But also I think it's a nice record for us as a department as we work on this project, because again, it was brand new for all of us as well. So we've all, I think, learned a huge amount, as well as the students learning a huge amount. So thanks again, and we will see everyone tomorrow night at 7:30.
I just can't wait for COVID to be over and we get back to normal. I don't want this format to last forever.